ask questions, even though I will be anywhere in the world, I will still be connected and I can still answer your questions. So please feel free just to put your questions there for the time being. But even after this, feel free to interact on the group, and I will always be there for you in case you need any advice. And you put, each of you, you put it on the group, because I want you to be using that group. That's reflect open questions that you can put as an assessor on the RPL panel yourself. From what I've seen just now, all the questions are good. All the questions are relevant to a reader. Thank you. But what we need, you have been asking different set of questions. I would refer you back to what our friend mentioned yesterday. Remember when she had put the question, then she got deeper into the same question to make sure that the person really knows that particular thing. Therefore, whichever question, you can start, of course, by a general questions. What are your duties as a waiter? That is a very general question. What are the duties? So once the waiter lists the duties, then okay, you pick up one duty. And then from that one duty, you put your questions now. Okay, what do you do as serving a plate, serving a customer? How do you serve the customer? Then you start putting the question, how do you serve? When you come and serve the customer, how do you serve? You don't give, like what we did yesterday, do we serve from the right or do we serve from the left? We ask the waiter to tell us without giving him some hint. How do you serve? Then after that, of course, you go deeper. Before that, maybe you can remember we were talking about the different levels of qualification. List some of the items on the table. How do you lay down a table? Because that's part of his job, no? Laying the table, putting the forks. How do you put which fork, which knife, which spoon, where? I mean, if you are a trainer in the hospitality industry, you will know how to do all these. So these are questions that takes you deeper into the activities, into the tasks which the waiter will be doing. And as somebody, an expert in hospitality and tourism, you will already know whether this person really knows his job. So this is the first thing that I wanted to tell you. For example, if you talk about health and safety. In health and safety, okay, first thing you must ask, what do you have in a first aid kit? List the items that you have in a first aid kit. Then maybe you can, at a later stage, you can put this question, hypothetical. What would you do in such a circumstance? You see? But first, you have put different types of questions at different levels. So know really whether the person, maybe that waiter has never seen a first aid kit. It happens. So you will know that that person is not competent in health and safety. I'm just taking a general example. So in this way, there would be questions that you need to put to go deeper into the experiences of the person. Do not ask general questions, as I mentioned. What will you do in 10 years? These are not our job as an assessor. Right? And also, there is one question which I saw actually on the group. Okay, if you have a difficult customer or whatever, how do you manage it, okay, it depends now whether that particular answer will lead to any learning outcomes. Do we have any learning outcomes related to that? Then you put a question. If there is no learning outcome, then please don't do it. Because you only have 20 minutes, okay, to assess the candidate. So don't waste the 20 minutes. Ask questions which will make you comfortable that yes, really, this person is a waiter. So be very direct in your questions. I mean, one of the things which we always ask whenever we see a waiter, okay, what do you do when you first come to a hotel? You work in a hotel. What is the first thing you do? Tell us your daily routine. From the time you reach the hotel, what do you do? Do you know the answer? Anybody can think. Then you will know really this person is a waiter. Do you know? The first step when somebody who claims to be a waiter, you put the question to him. What is the routine? What is the duties? What do you do as soon as you reach the hotel? Pardon? Uniform, exactly. If you are a waiter, this is what you do. The first thing that when you come to a hotel, of course, you check in, you write your attendance or whatever, and then you go and you change. You put your uniform. And then one of the things which we ask waiters, I mean in our case, we ask waiters, okay, what are the tools that you will have with you in your uniform? I don't know if you get the point, There are certain things which the waiter needs to have with him. And one of the tools, I would call it a tool, that he needs with him, of course, is his pen. And they have a small, jotter, where they take all the orders and all these things. Okay? You need to have that. But then, what other tool you have? And we do it in Mauritius because we want to make sure that the waiter is fully equipped. It's not just the pen and the jotter, because we have it like in a sort of course, it belongs to the company. Name tag is in the uniform anyway. I mean tools. The wine opener. Yeah. And the bottle opener. We have it all together. Normally, all hotels in Mauritius, they would give us, when you join in, they will give you that. But that is not meant for you to keep it at home. Or if you lose it, that is your problem. You need to bring that as a tool, because if you're going to open the bottle of the wine for the customer, you don't ask the customer, wait, I'm going to get, my opener, or I'm going to borrow an opener. You need to have your tool in your pocket. This is just one example. So now, if the person answers all these questions, so he's a waiter. Of course, you have to look at the evidences also in your portfolio. But these are the type of questions which you would put to the waiter. Okay? So now, let us go very quickly now to our next session, which is more or less, I would say, the last session. Unless my friend architect would have anything more to say, we can give him the floor. I'm not going to explain to you what is certification. I mean, all people who have been working on certification. There are certain things that you need to know. For example, what type of, when you do the assessment, what are the things that we put on a certificate. I mean, all these, to verify whether the name is good. I mean, all these things I'm not going to touch upon. But I'd rather touch upon the impact of certification in RPL. Certification, RPL certification. What could be the impact of the RPL certification? It can be quite significant, especially in the context of workforce development. For the individual, this is a sort of recap also of what we have been talking. Remember, skill recognition and confidence, improved employability, access to education, time and cost saving. For the employers, again here, upskilling and workforce agility, staff motivation and retention. You know that in certain countries, there is a lot of labor turnover. You know, especially in countries where, you know, like in Mauritius, for example, we have a lot of labor turnover. This is why we have a lot of Nigerians working in Mauritius. Because, you know, there is not enough people to work in the different sectors of the economy. Training efficiency. I mean, you're not going to train somebody when you already know that that person is already competent in such a field. You're not going to train again the person in the same thing. Education and training providers. Maybe, you know, for those, I mean, today, of course, we don't have many education and training providers, but for them also, it is important. They have, you know, what we call the expanded access and inclusion, because when you're doing RPL, it is going to attract more customers for them, and the customers would be RPL applicants. Is it not a business for them? So it is interesting for them as well. Industry alignment. They collaborate, actually, the training providers. They have to collaborate with industry in order to align their own training now. When they're going to do RPL certification, they know what are the gaps. So they can prepare the program on the gaps and they deliver it to the industry. So you already have your market, the industry. Student success and so on, of course, all these are actually the impact area for the education and training providers. For society, social equity. I think it supports the inclusion of disadvantaged. We've been talking about it. Disadvantaged groups and improves social mobility of the person. This is the impact on society. Remember, I was talking about the social ladder. You know, once we get the certificate, we can go higher up on the social ladder. Increases number of formally certified and competent workers. I mean, for the economy, what could that be? When I would say, all right, 10,000, 10,000. Okay, thank you. You see, whenever we want to attract investors in a country, the investor must know that we have a competent and certified labor force in that country. And it can only be done, of course, if the people can prove that they are competent in that. And how can they do? If we don't do RPL and we have 55% of our labor force, in the informal sector, how can we show it? We can say we have so many certified or people who can do the job, but the investor wants to see really. He's not going to come and invest, and then when he tries to find the labor force and he can't find it, do you think it is going to be of interest to him? No. Any investor, before they put in the money, they want to know whether all the conditions are there for them to be secure when they put their funds into a country. Workforce agility, again, enables faster adaptation to changing job markets. When there is a dynamic economy in a country, You change your main activities in the different sectors. In Mauritius, when we started, it was an agricultural country, sugarcane. Then we went to manufacturing. So we had to get our labor force from agriculture into manufacturing. From manufacturing, we went into tourism. From tourism, we went into financial services. We went into call centers. I mean, how do you manage this shift in the economy if you don't have a qualified manpower? So I'm trying to get the point to you that very often people have experiences. And if we can certify these people, I am sure, people will come and invest in your country. In Mauritius, we don't have any resources, no resources at all. We don't have any mines. We have nothing. Only resource we have in Mauritius is our human resource capital. That is all. But still, we are doing very well. We are among one of the richest in terms of GDP in the whole of Africa. Impacts on individuals, I mean, this is what I have described it a little bit more for you here. I'm not going to go through all the slides again because we don't have so much time. Impact on the employers, training, education and training institutions, society and economy. Now, this is also something which is of interest to us. Linkage of RPL with the qualifications framework. Here, we would say that RPL is fundamentally linked to qualifications framework because it provides a structured pathway for recognizing non-formal and informal learning in a way that it is comparable to formal education outcomes. Can somebody explain to me what does that mean? Yes, please.
In essence, what we are saying is that recognition of prior learning, focusing on non-formal and informal learning. Such workers or such candidates can now be at par, so to say, with the one from formal education.
You see, that's why I said, I'm very confident now. Very confident. This is what I was expecting, and I'm sure all of you know it. This is what it is meant by RPL today. Alignment of learning outcomes. Qualifications framework, whether it is a national or whether it is a regional or a continental one, are built on learning outcomes. You know that, All our qualifications framework are built on learning outcomes. So what a learner is expected to know, understand and do at each qualification level. Remember the level descriptors? Therefore, the RPL assesses an individual's competencies against these same outcomes. No? Whether it is somebody who had gone through the formal system or through the RPL route, we're still assessing the people on the same learning outcomes. So this is how RPL is linked to qualifications framework. RPL acts as a bridge between experiential learning and formal education outcomes. Level descriptors, we did a little bit of work yesterday, remember, on the level descriptor for Nigeria. And these level descriptors provide clear criteria for RPL practitioners to evaluate evidence submitted by learners. This is what I mentioned yesterday. how the RPL, the level descriptors in qualifications framework would help you as RPL assessors to assess the candidates. Credit accumulation and transfer. Remember, we talked about partial qualification and some being awarded credits. National and regional policy support. Many countries and regions have embedded RPL policies into their qualification framework legislation and implementation guidelines. I think it is the same here in Nigeria. Progression pathways and lifelong learning. Again, how RPL links with qualifications framework is that once we get a qualification, then we can move to a higher one. Pathway for further education and employment. Maybe this one could be interesting to you. Remember the accreditation body, which some of you are. The role of accreditation bodies is about quality assurance. Of course, we have to quality assure institutions, register institutions. We have also to accredit qualifications, but also I think one of the role will be to ensure that RPL, is one of the roles that accreditation bodies should also look into is RPL. Key characteristics of accreditation bodies. I mean, you know that, eh? I don't think I have to go very deep into it. Legally mandated, independent and neutral, quality guardians, standard setters, monitoring and evaluation. Again, something to do with accreditation bodies. As you know, accreditation bodies actually they anchor the functioning of the qualifications framework. So we have break time, and I'm going a bit faster because that was supposed to take us in the morning. Developing action plan. I think we would skip that one because we already did some work on it yesterday. How we are going to implement RPL in institutions and organizations. Some strategy, develop RPL policy or fine-tune the RPL policy which we have already. Build staff capacity, design assessment tools, set up RPL centers, because we have to decide which institution is going to be an RPL center. We have to run awareness campaigns. We need to partner with industry. I think this is one of the things which, one of our weaknesses. Anywhere you look at it, this is one of the weaknesses that we have. All government bodies have very few industry partners. If we are going to do RPL, we need to have closer ties with the industry. I know it is easy for me to say it, but for you to implement it is a big challenge. Of course, we have to embed it in the strategy and budget, of course, in terms of resources, remember, monitoring and evaluation again. Identify key enablers and support mechanism for RPL. In terms of governance and policy, the enabler would be, we have a national RPL policy and we have the legal backing. That's the support mechanism. Human resource capacity, we need to have trained assessors, mentors, facilitators in RPL. So training and technical assistance are important aspects as support mechanism for human resource capacity. Quality assurance, this one I don't need to tell you because you're all experts into it. Infrastructure and tools. We need to have as I said, we need to have to identify our RPL centers. Not everybody is going to be an RPL center. We need to have standardized assessment tools. The same tool must be used by all the RPL centers. It must not be that some RPL centers are developing their own assessment tools. Funding and incentives, I mean this, you are more actually able than me on this point. Funding, without funding and incentives, we can't do anything. You know about it. Awareness and communication. These are the key enablers and support mechanisms. Stakeholder engagement. I'm not going to take all of them because you can read them. You will have these PowerPoints with you. The stakeholder engagement. You know, whenever we do RPL, it is important. Why do we have the stakeholder engagement? Just imagine if you don't have the support of employers. Do you think you will be able to do RPL? No. Therefore, support of these different stakeholders is important. Now, for example, another support would be, okay, the one who is funding us. If we don't have a good engagement with that particular agency or institution, do you think they will continue to fund us for RPL? We do RPL and then we don't give them, feedbacks on what is happening. How many people did we? Okay, maybe you can talk about it, my friend. I'm sure you know about this. Funding part,
Yeah, it's true. So, thank you very much. I think, I will also present a case study of impact for Kenya, and it involved some funders, for example. So it is true, depending on who is the funder, there is always what they call value for money. Value for money. Even in government, even if it's a public resources, or rather public agencies funding, for example, they want to see what was the impact of the money that and especially the impact is with respect to their objective, their cause. So the numbers and the impact of that investment is going to be communicated. So I think stakeholders who bring on board money are very critical to continuously be given feedback, and especially there are stakeholders who fund for purposes of, for example, general social welfare of human beings. So for them, it's about social impact. For example, if they are targeting youth, they are targeting, let's say we say human resource development, people to grow their skills. So they need to know whether the certification has contributed to value. But donors are also very important. Donors, the international development partners, which we call donors, most of the time they also have global targets and objectives to achieve. For example, if it's World Bank, if it's African Development Bank, if it's UN agencies, and most importantly, like we're having our case in Kenya, and I guess African countries have that similar case. We have bilateral partners. For example, you may have Germany, for example, as a bilateral partner with, let's say, Nigeria, its countries, and Germans have their own strategic interests and objectives. So if they find an initiative and the RPL assessment, for example, maybe they're looking at, labor mobility, and so they need to know how many people have been certified in what competencies and certifications, and are they able, for example, to work and fit into the German or the European labor market. So that is for them a very key interest. So feedback, engagement, but also cracking the numbers and the value, attaching value. So if they give you for example, $10,000 or $2 million or 2 million euro, then you must make, something in terms of what do they get in return, either immediately or even in the long term. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. What I want to tell you, and I think what we should learn from him, when donors, especially international donors, they would give you can get millions of euro, millions of dollars for this project. But now what do you do with this million of dollars? You take it and you take a group from your organization and some family members, you come to Mauritius for holiday. Do you think that this organization is going to fund you, and are you going to be successful? This is what people have to understand, that whenever money is given to you, whether it is from NBTE, whether it is from the donor, what you need to do is to have a performance-based system where you show to your donor that this is how we've spent the money, and this is how many, because the purpose of that was to train people, of course, through RPL. How many people did we train? Or if the money was given to do the RPL assessment itself, how many people did we assess? So you see, these are the points which are quite important whenever we talk about stakeholder engagement. It's only then that we can continue to get support from the different stakeholders. The action plan, of course, we're not going to work on it. This is a template which I had prepared actually for the action plan, but of course you will have all these on your group. Group presentations, what is the risk and mitigation. Maybe here, you already know the risk, and we've been talking about it, awareness, remember? For example, low candidate awareness. Actually, it is medium, the risk is medium in terms of likelihood. And the impact is high. If we do not have candidate, what do we do? What RPL do we do? Nothing will happen. Therefore, we need to do a lot of awareness campaign. And again, here you see I put employer partnership. So if we don't have these types of rapport, this type of, I would say, engagement with employers, it is going to be a big challenge for us. Inadequate assessor training. I stress again on it. Training. If we do not have enough people, and I was discussing last night with my friend, Wamba, they need to train, I think, 1 million, they need to assess 1 million candidates in RPL in 1 year. 1 million. Yeah, 1 year. Okay, and then I asked him, how many people are you going to train or going to have for those 1 million? He said 7,000. I said, will it be enough? 7,000 people for 1 million might not be enough. But this is what you have. So you have to do, of course, you try to do the maximum that you can with whatever resources you get. But these are things that are realities. Misalignments with qualifications standards. Very often, and I'm sorry to say it, people do not understand the qualifications framework. Even though we are within the system, many people within institutions that deal with qualifications framework do not even know about the standards. And this is one of the unfortunate reality in qualifications framework. So we need to engage more people, and experts in this qualifications framework to make it known. Monitoring and report, you know that, KPIs. Remember I was talking about, performance. So KPIs are important. Even before we start what he's going to do for next year, he has already been given his KPI to train 7,000 people, and the output should be 1 million RPL as people who have been RPL. The KPIs are very clear. So it is for you really to achieve those. KPIs of course are number of candidates assessed, percentage of successful recognition, candidate satisfaction rate, and of course the time taken. Time taken also is an important factor. We cannot just take 2 years to give somebody his certificate. There's no sense into it. Of course, now we also have a program evaluation, we've been talking, myself and Architect Wambua and our Secretary General, Honorable Usman Sila has been facilitating, some of the sessions here for the 5-day. And I did ask my brother Bashir to have a feedback form for you. We want also to know, because you see, this program was funded by Tetfund, and the Executive Secretary will be coming later, shortly. He wants to know, hey, what have you been doing in the 5 years, 5 days that I gave you? I funded you for that. NBTE would like to know, how effective has this workshop been? Or are they wasting their time, getting all of you here, getting trainers from Mauritius, from Kenya, from Gambia to come here, and then, at the end, nothing has happened. No learning has happened. There is no takeaways from here. Therefore, we have prepared a small feedback form, very basic one, and we'd be grateful actually to you if you can fill it and give it back. Of course it is anonymous, you can put whatever you want. And you give it back to our colleagues at the back. So they will be doing that shortly also. So now, you want to take the floor, one more?
Sorry, sir.
Yes.
In addition, when
Yes, Tetfund arrives, it changes their own perception on RPL and even some way.
It's something, excuse me? Yeah, I don't know why it is cutting. Of course, there are many themes, the objectives of the study. South Africa was also quoted in that survey and what they'll be doing. Of course, just like what Dr. Kailash has said, however, challenges of inconsistent quality assessments, limited employer recognition, and lack of trained assessors in some of the sectors have also persisted. And of course, awareness is also coming out as a major. It also came up in that. So Kenya National Qualifications Authority is the main agency here in Kenya leading. So the study was just to provide some better understanding of the RPL and its influence on the beneficiaries' lives. Yeah, the people that were assessed and certified and actually graduated. So we needed to assess the impact on employment trajectory of those candidates, examine the role of certification towards facilitating further education opportunities for those candidates, and explore the contribution of personal empowerment and social mobility for those candidates or those beneficiaries, and also identify challenges that may have been encountered. So this was the research methodology, mixed approach, qualitative. So I don't want to belabor too much, because the statisticians and the professional researchers are very good at this. I just want us to go to the numbers, all right? So you could see how the distribution of the respondents for the candidates that had been, or the sample of the candidates that had been assessed and certified. Age, you can see between 25 and 35 was the biggest, I think, number, the largest group, because it was 52% of that population. So you remember one of the things we were talking about in targeting. We said youth, adults, and people. So if you use age as you could see. I think somebody asked whether there is the issue of people below the age. I think people below the age below the age of 18. So you could see between 18 and 24 we had the least. Yeah. So, but then it was interesting that between 35 and 40. Yes.
Based on this age,
Yes.
this 25 to 35.
Yes.
In the informal sector, what do you classify them? Are they senior artisans or master?
Yeah, they are not yet masters. Most of them are basic artisans level. They don't have many years of experience. But what happened, it depends on whether most of them may have gone through formal education up to secondary level. So if they leave secondary around 15, they graduate from secondary 15, and then they don't go to the colleges. So they may join the informal sector a bit early, just in their teens, maybe 15, 17, 18. But if they never went to, if they were school dropouts and they dropped out at primary school, they are likely to be very experienced by the time they are 30 years, because they have spent nearly 20 years in the informal sector. Yeah, so you realize, largely our informal sector is people who may not have properly gone to school. Yeah, so that is where you see that number. Those are very young people. Those are very young people, but then they are in the informal sector. They are very young. They should have, if they went to the university, they should be finishing their university around when they are 20 years and thereabout, or even 21, 22. Yeah, so that then they can go for formal career, or they still join the informal sector if they don't get a formal job. Yeah, and then they have about 10 years of experience in work. So that is, they can't be master, but at least they are basic artisans. They have some competencies. So they get level 3, level 4 certification most of the time. Most of the time, a few of them are able to get level 6, which is diploma, which takes 3 years in the formal. Yeah. So this is we can make, so in terms of gender, you could see, yeah, male was leading, female was there following close, gender distribution. Region, you remember we said you could target geographical regions, and this is a national initiative, but we sampled a few counties, and this is how Nairobi, the urban area, was leading with 25%, and other counties came there, where they were coming, where they exist, where they live, where they operate from. Education level, you could see, the highest level was level 3. People with it, you could see they went up to level 3. I think level 3 is, in Kenya, I think is about secondary, up to secondary. They may not have gone to higher level, like colleges, private colleges. Yeah, but we also had people with degrees in the informal sector. And they came for RPL and they were certified. Yeah, you could see. So some who had, you can see, whether they had completed secondary, some had dropped out of secondary but at least they had done primary. Most of them, you find they have completed primary school. Yes.
This degree category.
Yes.
Usually it's not in their professional area. Am I right?
Yeah, it's not necessarily their professional area. So they have degrees, but then they didn't get jobs, so they just join anything. Then they want to be certified in that new thing that and we say they are educated because they have degrees. Yeah, but it is not useful in RPL. Even if you bring the degree certificate, it may not be part of the but it could help if it's knowledge, not necessarily technical knowledge, but general knowledge like literacy, of course, if that is it. So these are the ones that can, if they so wish, because they have a bit of general knowledge or exposure, they can actually continue to learn or gain more competence and apply for higher qualifications, like level 6 and above. Yeah. So nationality, you saw, Kenya, 80% was Kenyan. You remember we said in terms of inclusion, you can agree. You can agree a percentage. You can set a percentage and put refugees. And the countries where they came from, especially for refugees, Burundi, Central African Republic, DRC, Congo, Ethiopia, Kenya, Sudan, you may be having the same case here, I do. So it is important. And this was becoming very... Yes. Yeah. Oh, am I fast? Yes. Let's hear him, then we will come to where you are. Yes. 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 This one. Yeah.
Okay. Just trying to
comment.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the last slide.
Yeah. Before this.
Focus out of school.
Yeah.
They are not falling under any of these categories, right?
Yeah. So you can see no schooling. So there is a small one. Yeah, so it was deliberate because our strategy in Kenya is people who are working. So if they are out of school, how to track them was becoming a problem, because if they are not out of school and they are not in formal employment, what we call NEET, not in education, not in training, not in employment. So if they are not out of school, most likely they are in the informal sector, because they also don't have formal jobs.
Okay, that's why we want to see them reflected.
Yeah.
That they are out of school, but they are in the informal.
Yeah. I think the study, so it is the design, the researchers, I don't know how they captured so because I was not part of the research, but I think I observed that one in terms of the study design. They should have.
We have a good chunk of them that are in the lost in transition.
Lost in transition. Yes. It's a good component you could want to target. I think that's a good intervention. Yes. Yes. Sorry? Yeah. So the challenge is, if they are out of school, yeah, that's the point. Because if you just target out of school, they may not have competency. So the strategy, the struggle was, as I said, they are actors that deal with those. So how do you mobilize? How do you identify them? Do you use local administrators? For example, local administration to see, when you are creating the awareness? Or do you use their guardians and their parents to bring them? So that was a small, because children do not have a way of socially organizing, except through families and churches, religious institutions. So that was probably what leads to, in terms of a strategy in identifying and mobilizing beneficiaries. Maybe that could be something Kenya needs to consider. Yes, sir, please.
Out of school. You know, like Oga said, some of them drop out somewhere along the school. Maybe they engage somewhere in all this artisan work. They were working with either a helper or whatever, serving people like medicine, like welders and other technical job. They are out of school. They are out of school does not mean that they don't have a place to locate them.
So who is? So that's true. They are out of. That's why I said they are not schooling. So which stakeholder, which structure of society captures those people? So that is the issue. So they are not out of school. So where are they? Who is responsible for them? Can you advertise and put in the radio that the children come forward? So you use social services structures. I don't know whether you have. So that's the issue of stakeholder identification, and if you suggest that as a target group for RPL, then you can study the best. You can agree. So I have very little time, but yes.
How can you do the RPL? Because they are not in education, they are not in employment, they are not in training. So how do you?
No, the point is not like that. The point is that you are thinking of their education level. So what of those people in the informal sector that they are out of school.
Yeah. So
They are not targeting to get a statistic of out of school.
yes.
In the informal sector.
Yeah. So the education, the main thing was, yeah. I think we can do a plenary and see how best. Yeah. So this is just to give you. So of course it was a study. It was a survey that was designed by researchers. So I'm sure Kenya can have a conversation if they feel that those that are in the informal sector and they are dropouts. The issue is that when you say education level, I think it's the issue of the word. So when you say education level is the parameter you are using. So you just need to say what level of education did you reach, or did you go to school at all? All right. The issue of not in education, not in employment, and not in training is a whole different conversation altogether. Yeah. So that's so we can proceed. So nationality we had agreed with, and then disability. You remember? Yes. This one? Yeah. Sorry? I'm not getting it. Yeah. So it's not my work. It's a report the way it was. I needed to say, so I'm not the owner of the report. So I could give you. So you see, it was conducted by KNQA in partnership with colleges, and it was presented and validated on 28th of March. So I'll give them the feedback. Yeah, you can see it is not mine. But I hear maybe the numbers are not adding up, but that is what they shared.
Yeah, but I think the simple reason could be there could be one group that may appear in one as well as in another. There could be individuals that will appear.
Because I'm not a statistician, I hardly understand numbers. So I'm a politician. So I'm a policy person largely. Yeah, because I do that a lot in Kenya. But otherwise, so for that purpose, let's move. So country, nationality. Then you are here. So you remember, you have to be very deliberate when you talk about disability. At least the point here is, people who are physically challenged, they were leading. People who had a leg issue, a left hand, fingers, listening, so you have to be very intentional when you are targeting disability. Because disabilities are very, even if you look at our tools, as you pick out, the personal data, the candidate might have to indicate, because that affects the assessment method. It affects almost everybody who's involved, including counselors, assessors. How you assess a deaf person is not necessarily the way you would assess. And the task you give, it's very detailed, it's very personalized. So it's important to have, and it has an impact on the assessment and the outcome. So you can easily prejudice somebody by just having the wrong assessment, the wrong application of because of our disability. So otherwise, but of course, people without disability. So we have a new term. So because people with disabilities, they kept telling us, what are you? You keep telling us we are people with disability. What are you guys? So we are all people with certain types of disabilities. Anyway, but we agreed, let us call the rest people without disability. And they were very keen saying, we don't live with disability, we are just people with disability, but we don't live with them. Because we can't live with a disability. It's like you're living with somebody else. So those are the funny, you want to say something?
Concerning the people living with disability. In our organization in Gausa, we address them as people with special abilities. Because everybody has his own disability, either physical or psychological, but their own is always addressed as disability. But we regard it as special abilities. And it's from our experience that most of them has one or two certain qualities or intelligence that is sometimes underrated. So we call them people living with special ability.
Yes, definitely you can adopt a term because I think because of globalization of things and internationalization of stuff, so we can still agree. We stop using people with disabilities. We say people with special abilities. It's a conversation that can still be taken up. You can put it in your policies, in your documents, formal documents, and agree. But I think people with disability has been agreed as a category of some of the marginalized persons. And but anyway, it's a debate. It comes. Yes, sir.
Lack of funds is a disability. Of which all of us.
We are disabled in one or the other. Yeah, sorry. Thank you very much, Director, for that. Otherwise, the point is just to show you how you can measure impact. And the impact, you have to calibrate impact in many ways. Yeah, so that you are able to see how RPL is making. So I think findings, general, so this is about career enhancement, if you like, or employment issues. So they could say 63% reported significant enhancement of jobs, especially for more those who wanted to enhance their reported positive impact on career advancement. So and we had also issues with these statistics in Kenya. Yeah, so we don't want to get into the debate of the statistics because we felt like this one seems to speak to formal employment. Yeah, if you look at this, it's a bit. What was the evidence collected to get this? So the researchers had a lot of pain to confirm some of these things, but nevertheless, the point is trying to income levels. Yeah, but there's one I wanted. Bridge. Yeah, this one I'm sure will be very interested to learn. We also had issues because we felt 4 years is a very short time to measure long-term impact. Probably we felt that maybe we need to do more like 5 years and 10 years of implementation. Then we give people time to see how they utilize the RPL certification or qualification. But nevertheless, there was pressure. There was pressure to justify why should people continue to fund RPL, government to allocate money. So they said, can you show us value for money? I think that is why this study was done. And people were feeling that just to entice the donors and the government to give money, maybe the figures were played around to look nice so that you can convince them that the RPL has impact. But if you are more objective and sober and given time, probably this would have been slightly different. But nevertheless, it's a report. So, lifelong learning, I think this is the issue of lifelong learning, bridge to further learning, skills development. Confidence building, I think this was one of our best focus. I mean, I would say like the informal sector, because of the prejudices that this sector has faced in Kenya and being marginalized. So we feel that the boost confidence. And now we have our members are sitting in boards of government bodies. We have members who have joined the military, the defense forces, and they have never been to school, they have never been to formal employment. So now the government told us, because your people are certified, so they are not necessarily interested in going to public service, but they want to take their voice to the decision-making table. So we are recommending in all vocational training centers, TVET institutions, in the management boards, to have a member of the informal sector sitting so that they can start to influence operationalization and implementation of RPL at that level. And we are getting a lot of requests across national polytechnics and TVET institutions saying, recommend one. Like now what we are doing, we are focusing on 7,000 RPL practitioners, and we are saying every training like this one, there must be 2 represented from the informal sector, whether they have gone to school or not. It's not a point. All right. What is important? They sit there, they internalize RPL, they become the champions in the sector, and hopefully they will also be certified and be given RPL practitioner level 2. We have designed a qualification for RPL practitioners so that we give them so that they can become. So for us, self-esteem and taking charge of the conversation is important, and that's probably what I wanted to say. So I think we have an issue of accessibility across the region. I'm sure you guys, Nigeria is a very vast country. Kenya is also slightly, I think we are a quarter of terms of population of Nigeria. But in landmass, so we have issues inside areas that have never, very difficult to reach, even to take RPL services. Like you have heard, for us, it is not people going to school. It is the school going to the people. All right? So then you have to have a strategy to reach out. So I don't, a success factors were done. Yeah, I remember Dr. Kailash presented the issue of enablers and how do you, so I think expand awareness, these are recommendations, they have also been done the same. Affordability was an issue. Assessment quality, I think we have agreed. So in conclusion, I think RPL has a significant impact. We can agree on employment, education and personal empowerment and social mobility. That's a fair conclusion. And then we must address accessibility and all those others. I think we need to invest. I think Nigeria needs to make a strategic investment. The government has to agree. The federal government, the state government may have to agree as part of the human capital development. Inclusive growth is no point of some. In Kenya, we used to say we have 10 millionaires and 10 million poor people. Yeah, so inclusivity in economic growth and nation building is important because it is also part of sustainability. So thank you very much for your time. And karibu sana. Yeah, please, asante. Thank you very much.
Okay. I think we have had this contribution for the experience of Kenya. Maybe in our more for our rural technical colleges. What do you call them? Yeah, what that board, what do you call them? The council they have. No, in the schools.
Okay, SPL.
So let us have at least an MCP or people from the informal sector. Yes.
Thank you very much. We are expecting Executive Secretary Tetfund for the take our tea break. While taking the tea break, we are going to rearrange this place.
Implement RPL. We have somebody from welding here. Is he here? Welding. Who is from welding? He's there. Okay. Now, my question to you, if I tell you I am a welder, how many years of experience do you think I need as for you really to be sure that I am a welder?
At least 2 years.
In terms of hospitality?
Um, 2.5 to 3 years.
Hospitality is 2.5 to 3 years. ICT?
It depends on the individual's project involvement. It is between the minimum. The person has to practice at least for 1 year.
Well, there is this discussion or this lack of non-agreement about the years. Yeah, but people are more of what have you achieved within that time. you may spend 5 years in auto shop, and you didn't notice. So I think there is this argument.
So definitely, we have all types of argument against it. But what I wanted to put here is that, in our policy, we must say that these people who are going to be assessed have a minimum number of years of experience. And the international norm is 4 years of experience. And I think this is important. One important aspect which I missed, when I was making all my presentation, but then when I saw his presentation, I remembered that we need to clear this. So we need a minimum of 3 years of experience. Some countries have asked for 5 years of experience because it depends on the context of the country. But the minimum, like in European countries, it would be 3 years. And in many African countries, also it is 3 years. But some countries which do not have facilities, a lot of countries, they are very underdeveloped. So for those countries, they say at least 5 years. So this is one of the points which I wanted to clarify. And maybe, when we think about this policy, we can always, reflect upon it.
Okay, thank you, Kailash. I want you to share your experience. Now we have opportunity of doing RPL to master craftspersons. It's all part of the initiative of the Honorable Minister of Education. As he plugged off his initiative, he said, now the skills training will happen in training centers and technical colleges. However, these young persons will be attached, like for the technical colleges, they are going to spend at least a year in a workplace. And due to absence of industry, we are considering the master craftsperson to be our gateways for them to learn the on-the-job skills. So now, we are not just going to adapt any MCP, but we are going to do a selection of which they were all asked to apply to NBTE for expression of interest that they want to participate in this. So we want to use RPL now to get the best out of these people and to let them have a feel of a formal system. So now all of us, I believe, except those that are 5 busy, not 3 busy, not 2 busy, that we are inviting you are going to be part of those people that will handle these activities for us. So now, if our focus is on MCPs, please give us a guide. Since we are all sitting here, Dr. Kailash, Architect Wambua, please share your experience so that it will guide us into. And as you know, and as you heard our ears say, we don't have the time since they are master class persons. So he wanted us to do it as fast as possible. Let me tell you, he wanted us to start something by Monday. I had to beg him that, sir, please, let these people go back, let us develop our instrument, let us give the awareness, at least even to these people concerned, so that we can do something. So, but policymakers, and we are in the political era, they want number and they want speed. And we in the public service, more especially we in the regulatory, we are always in a crossroad, but because we will think of regulation, quality, this thing. So please share your experience before our tea time. Thank you.
Yes. All right. I'll share. So for us, our experience in Kenya, and probably could be the same. You can adopt to. You are right. So a master craftspersons in Kenya is a qualification. That's first and foremost. So it is in the regulations. It's actually in the act of the industrial training. So the National Industrial Training Authority gazetted, created that it's a level after grade 3, grade 2, grade 1. You go to Master Craftsperson 3, Master Craftsperson 2, Master Craftsperson 1. Then you go to Professional Master Craftsman, which is level 7, equivalent to a degree. So first and foremost, that is how we do. So therefore, the National Industrial Training Authority is authorized by law to advertise, pre-qualify, and now create a database of master craftspersons. So that is what. But then, like I said, we realized, and it has been said, many people have over 30 years of experience, but when you assess them to that qualification, because it's a qualification now, it's a level within the KQF. Yeah, it's equivalent to a master craftsperson is equivalent to level 4. No, yeah, level 4, I think. No, master craftsman 3. There are actually 4 master craftsmen level. So it's 3, 2, 1, and professional master craftsman. So I think the best way is, in our experience, if you were to learn, is to have an authorized agency to make sure that you create a framework for assessing, upgrading, or upskilling the existing artisans that are very many to now acquire, and maybe you can target for us grade 1 would be the best target. So you say minimum entry level requirement for a master. If you have a grade 1 in Kenya is in industrial training, then you pick out the level descriptors of grade 1. Then you see what to add if you don't have a qualification to become at the next level of our qualification. But what we have realized is that we could not get experts to assess people to become master craftsmen. We had even to get foreigners, because some of our master craftsmen are extremely experienced, that on the work to design an assessment for them, we have to get either industry practitioners, but the traditional trainers are not able to, they are challenged, and they are not able to measure up to our prospective master. So we had to get experts in industry to help us to design the next level, the level descriptors. They are adopted by the training, and then they are put in the QNQF. So I think maybe that's what I can say. Thank you very much. Yes.
Informal sector like you have here. Actually, Mauritius is a very developed country. We don't have this informal sector. So there is no master craft persons actually. But there is something which has actually struck my mind when engineers, you should just mention something. The minister wants us to start RPL on Monday. Now I am getting worried now. Are we ready? You must be joking. You must be joking. You are ready to be an assessor or to be a facilitator, but are we ready to start RPL? No. Why? Remember all the steps? You have to put the instruments and the tools. Do we have it? Can we use his instrument? No, we cannot use that. Because now from what we have learned is that this instrument is not appropriate for RPL. Therefore, we need to develop our own instruments and our own tools. We need to develop our own assessment guides. Remember, Kenya has printed so many documents that they have. Do we have anything here? No. Even our policy, we need to refine it. Therefore, there is a lot of work that needs to be done before we can introduce it. You know, the ministers are always like that. They want everything to be done yesterday. But it is not possible. You know, and they say, oh, you are like, civil servants. You always try to block whatever we want to do as politicians. No, But when we do things, we have to do it right. Therefore, I think we have a lot of steps from now to the implementation of RPL in Nigeria. There's quite a lot of number of steps which need to be done. And we cannot jump any of those steps. This is why, yesterday we discussed with Honorable Sila what he did with you. What are the steps? What should we do next? What is the way forward? So we need to reflect upon all those things. So unfortunately, Engineer Suleiman, you will have to tell the minister, not possible. That you lose your job, I cannot do anything.
Actually, I can't tell the minister no, but I can tell him yes. And we are not reinventing the wheel. I'm happy we have you, we have Kenya, and I believe we can institutionalize this thing within a month. It's just determination. We have been taxing some people now. I think I taxed a group to develop instrument. I have taxed a group to develop a guide. I have taxed a group. Based on what you have given us, we have to present something to them. Otherwise, we will not get that political support that we wanted to have on this thing. Our president now has given them a marching order. Am I right? You people in the ministry, you know about it. And we all know, those of us in the committee that we have been working with, know that he said he wanted this thing because they have all signed their resignation letter and presented it to the president. If you didn't deliver this before this time, it's just approval that you will see. So we don't want that thing to happen. And we are lucky to have a minister that wants to push the event now. So we want to support him. And by supporting him, we mean we are not going to compromise on other aspects of it. That's why we said the mastercraft person that he wanted to get is just about 30. And the actual Bonama is 15 per state. In his proposal, 15 per state. So it's something that we can work within 1 month. Actually, when the ESO said, I said, Oga, let's push it to May. He said, no, blah, blah, blah. I said, let us push it to end of May. Before that time, we'll perfect some document. There is no document that will come out from us that will be a perfect document. But we need to put something on ground for those people that will give us the support so that at the end, before we make it public, we're able to get something from them and we're able to work on the materials and documentation that we. It's a gradual process. Anywhere you go in the world, RPL is still something that people are not too comfortable with. Like now, we have not opened it for the education now, right? Because the moment they will step on it, but we want to work within the informal setting, and that awareness is very critical. I'm a motor mechanic. Why should I go for RPL? So you need to have that conversation with them over and over through their trades association, through their this and that, and let us get their influencers, right? And get them involved and get them certified. So it's a gradual strategy that we have been developing to see, yes, if this thing can work. Let us see 10 in the automobile industry. We have been telling them by getting certification, you have become standardized. There will be value. You can negotiate on price now. Not anybody giving you some token that, okay, take this money, that you have certification, you'll be proud of it, all these things, quality will be there. So we're gradually sensitizing, getting them on our side, and from there, because if they are not looking for government jobs, they don't care about the certification. And we have a policy since 1963 that says they must have that certification before they can operate themselves, but the implementation is an issue. And if we are going to go toward that, it will take us the next decade without institutionalizing RPL. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is what we need to do. We need to have very clear guidelines, from the institution that is going to implement RPL in this country. We need to have documentation. We need to have instruments. And this is a deadline, 1 month. So do it. No. It is actually him. He took some time. I didn't take 10 minutes. I still have 2 minutes left. So what is important is that before we start RPL, to make it credible and to make it acceptable by the people, we need to show that we are serious in the job. And serious means, okay, the person can come and challenge us. How come you are doing RPL? What is your mandate? We have to show to them why we can do RPL, how we are going to do RPL. And these are the documents that we are going to use. You know, you will get a lot of challenges. People will challenge you, you know, when you start doing RPL. But you have to be ready for it. Okay? So thank you. I don't want to pay 10,000. So thank you very much.
Augusta, we are not doing it. Augusta. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Of assessment, at times we find out that either the quality assurance assessor is lagging or the learner is lagging. So it will take us virtually more than a year for us to finish the assessment. If you remember, even ES has mentioned it here. It took some people almost 2 years for them even to pass a single set of learners. So to me, RPL can reduce the timing. That's what I'm saying, constructive. It will reduce the timing of assessment.
For learners?
Yes, sir. It will. Yes, help reason. Let me explain.
No, sorry.
No, let me explain. I have my reasons, sir. Because if you look at, for instance, now we are talking about 3 months to 6 months, within which we are expecting that the claimant will come in with all the evidences that he can prove I have, which is polio. Whereas if you look at the other one,
you're still talking about RPL, but you see the word that you used, learner. Here we are not talking about learners. We're not talking about students. We are talking about candidates.
Let me explain to what I'm talking about learners.
Yes.
If somebody comes to a center, an SQ center, we're not calling them students, we call them learners. Because they have to undergo some training. 3 months e-center training, that's how we implement it in Nigeria. I don't know if it's different from other countries. Maybe you didn't get the point. You didn't get the, maybe, let me explain again. What I said, and let me repeat. I said that I discovered that because, for instance, now we have people who are almost 20 years. They have already have experience. We're talking about work, skills work. There's people you can ask them to do, like an automobile mechanic that can fix this engine and then solve the problem and then let's back. But if you look at what you have subjected them to, it's a normal NSQ training, observation, and other things like that. What am I saying now is, with this RPL, you have that assessment. Instead of you to take them through all these things, you can use RPL methods to solve the problem. Okay, that's what the practice
yes.
is.
What maybe we have to be very clear when we do RPL actually, and when we talk about RPL, is that we avoid 2 words. 2 words is important to be avoided, and these 2 words are first learners, and second is examination. These are 2 words that we don't use at all in RPL. Okay? We use candidates and assessment. Okay? Let us be very clear. And it is not for those people who come for training into our training centers. It is for people who are outside the system. Okay? Right. Exactly. Anybody else who want to just add? Yeah.
I want to take it from the word you use, fast track.
Yes.
Fast track. I think it will help us to fast track and fast track the formalization and certification
of the competent candidates. For instance, Engineer SM Yusuf is well aware and more integrated into how we started some years back. We started to formalize the informal sector. But then, there was no RPL. So what we could do, because the model we are trying to do is to say that if you are in for a training in NSQ, you will not come to our formal school. You will be at the workplace center. But before we could embark on that, we had to formalize the operation. So what we did was to make them pass through training of the NSQ to be familiar before we now absorb them to start being a center under us. But with RPL, there will not be need for training. It will fast track the certification and the formalization of them.
This is clear. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I also want to lean on what was mentioned by the first speaker. There are training centers that have people who are already competent and skillful without certification and qualification. And there's a demand for them to present such for upgrading or advancement. So they go to the training centers. I've been working for about 20, 30 years as a waiter. I have risen to so position and I need certificate because there's vacancy for a general manager and they need somebody with that. And my proprietor told me to go and see how I can get this qualification. So they come to this training center. So it is now obligatory that the training centers who are already known to the RPL to refer them to the RPL centers. That okay, you're welcome. We have a place, we have a center that can attend you. So that is these are some of the issues that we are going to be facing even as we start the RPL, because they will run into the training centers. So the training centers will now refer them to the RPL centers.
But this is why I was talking about stakeholder engagement. You know, if that training center now is not engaged in the RPL, process, you say, oh, I don't know anything, you go and, exactly. So whereas if we are engaging with that training center, irrespective of the fact that that training center does not do RPL, but they know about RPL, and they know which is the RPL center in that region. Therefore, they can also guide the people. And this is the importance of stakeholder engagement.
From the few lectures we have received, I discovered that RPL lays emphasis on those who have the experience but are not satisfied. So it will help them to get that certificate so that they'll be able to be placed where they belong in their various establishments. And also, it encourages the companies to now say, okay, my friend, or the ministry, or the government, or community, or interest group. Now, there is a program going on now. You can now go and register so that you can be satisfied. You'll be able to be placed where you are supposed to be. I think it's one of the most important things that RPL will come to play in our society.
What we have done so far, in RPL, we use the assessment center. We don't carry out any training because the candidate we are dealing with have already possessed experience and skills. And then even RPL like preparation, just like the one in the NSQ. And then assessment is done by the syndicate, like a committee. Unlike the NSQ framework, where you have the assessor, you have the referral, and the certified. I think these are some of the things that we learned from this training. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, in this program, our Secretary General, he asked me, he said, we don't have any site visits in it. I did not have time to include site visits in our program, SG. Because even if I included the site visits, Engineer Suleiman would take me to the best training center. This is what he would do. You agree with me? Yes. He would take me and he would say, okay, these are the facilities that we offer here in Nigeria. This is not what we want to see, huh? I don't want to see the good ones. I have already seen in my, in my life. What I want to know now from you, if we are going to have an RPL center, not in Abuja, in one of the regions now, outside, does that particular training center have the facilities to be an RPL center? Which means that, remember, when we talked about RPL, we said the candidate can also do simulation. They can show us practical examination, like assessment. They can show us what they can do. Now, does a training center outside the capitals, Abuja, Kaduna, and so on, do they have the facility to do that? I mean, anybody from those regions?
Yeah, certainly, because we have potential interest groups, several, just within Kano, in thousands, not just like hundreds of thousands of people that can key into RPL, including the graduated students from Ignosa, because we have been certifying them with local certificates, but now they are employers of labor without any recognized certificate. It is just recently we have keyed into NSQ, but now we can call them back, and we have all the state-of-the-art facilities to take them through the RPL confidently.
So my question was not on the market. I know that my question was, does that particular training institution have the necessary infrastructure to do that?
That's why at the end of my statement, I said it is because we have the state-of-the-art facilities. That's why we could graduate over 8,000 people within 5 years. And most of them are holding just a local certificate issued by Engosa. We have just recently keyed into NSQ, and very few of them, it's just a pilot training we are just doing for the NSQ for less than 20 people. But now with RPL, we can call all the 8,000 people in-house for an in-house training. And we have potential hundreds of thousands of people just within Kano to key into RPL.
That is one good example of one training center. Now, we have people here who have been accrediting training centers in the regions. Can you tell me now from your experience, those people who are accrediting training institutions in the different regions, do you think that these training centers are ready, or should we only identify the good ones which can be an RPL center? This is my question to you. Because in all countries, irrespective of the country, you have different types or grades of training institution. You have some that are very good and some that are very poor in terms of infrastructure. Now, when I'm coming to the point which I want to make, when we're going to identify a training center, it has to be a training center like our friend mentioned, state-of-the-art facilities. So we need training centers where people will feel confident when they go that yes, whatever competencies I have now can be really translated into a certificate. Because, just imagine if we did not have the machinery for welding, and then we get a candidate who says, oh, I want to do welding certificate in RPL. But if he doesn't have a certificate, the machinery, how can he assess the person? This is one of the things, the challenges which we find in many countries. Training centers are not equipped. But because we need a training center to be an RPL center in that region, we just take anybody. We just can't take anybody.